Today, I am here with William Wolf Nelson, also known as Coach Wolf, the legendary basketball coach at Farragut Career Academy. He coached the team to a city championship and was inducted into the Chicago Public League Hall of Fame and the IBCA Hall of Fame. Thank you for talking to me today. My first question for you is, what were some of the challenges and rewards of coaching in the Chicago public school system?
Challenges and rewards. Well, the challenges was I dealt with a lot of single parent children. A lot of my kids didn't have fathers in their lives. They were being raised by their mom, and they needed somebody to sort of lead the way for them because they were kind of like loose cannons, and I had to make sure that they had a chance. I came from the inner city. I graduated from Farragut, the same school that I coached at for 40 years, and the reward was to see those kids have a chance. That's why I actually started coaching, to give them an opportunity that I didn't think that they would otherwise get going to different places. So I did it, and I felt good doing what I did for all the years that I did it.
I think it's great that you did that. What do you feel separates a good player from great ones?
Well, there's a lot of players that are what we consider good. In order to be great, you got to have a certain drive within you. You got to be coachable. A lot of kids think they're better than what they actually are. They're not coachable. Like they don't take directions well. They don't want to take responsibility well. And I keep telling players that you have to be accountable. You have to want to. You gotta have that fire within you. You gotta be hungry. I've had a few great players, and I saw certain similarities within them. A lot of them, they had problems off the court, and they used basketball as a form of escapism. Okay, and some of them, they didn't have any problems off the court, and they didn't have that fire inside of them to, like Kevin Garnett had problems off the court. Ronnie Field had problems off. I can just name every top player that I had, and they had some issues. And when they got on the court, it was like that was their way to escape all the other stuff, because that was the place where they was the most happy. And they would do anything to stay on the court for as long as they could, and stay in their gym as long as they could. They didn't want to go home to their problems. And I noticed that about them. I kept looking back and saying, why is this guy good, but this other guy's just great? Like I had Michael Dunnigan, who was a single, he was the only child. His mom took care of everything. He was sort of, he was content. He basically felt like I got everything I need, this, that, and other, and even though I developed him to be a good player, he was a McDonald's All-American, he didn't stick in the NBA. He had his opportunities, but he didn't stick because he just wasn't hungry. He didn't want it. You have to want it in order to be great. You got to be willing to work and to sacrifice in order to be great. A lot of these kids don't want to sacrifice. They want it easy. They want to just, have somebody prepare their dinner, chop it up for them, feed it to them, and just, they're not accountable for anything. As long as I'm not asking them to do too much, then they'll do it. Okay, and I'm like, no, I want to see the person that's going to do it and sacrifice and be there every day. And even though it hurts, they're going to still be there. Those are the players that I realize, and I still to this day can flash back all those 40 years later and see all of my players that were really successful. I see the good players, they got a chance to go to college, they got a chance to do it, but these guys exceeded even what the average kid did because they were just hungry and they were willing to sacrifice. What do I need to do, coach? What do I need to do? The other guys don't ask what they need to do. So, well, you're only going to go as far as your skills and your drive takes you. If you don't have a drive, and that's what happened with this kid. He didn't have that drive. People wanted it for him more than he wanted it for himself. Shouldn't happen.
Yes, see that. You once said, I know math and I know basketball. Can you tell me more about how the two are connected?
For me, to connect everything that I've learned in life, I'm able to teach. Like I sort of find ways and shortcuts of how to do things. I mean, you may be able to do something that I can't do, but I can watch you do it, and I can explain to you how you did what you did. And you may not be able to explain, like, I can't dunk, but I can teach you how to dunk. I can't shoot. I tell all my kids, I can't shoot, but I can teach you how to shoot. Once upon a time, I was a pretty good dribbler. I don't do it anymore, but I can still teach you how to do that. Same thing with math. If I see somebody do something, if I see a problem, I can always find a shorter way to do that problem. I take a 6-step problem and turn it into 1 step, and 1 or 2 steps, and that's it. That's all. So I teach ACT and SAT prep because I always was able to process like that. So I equate the two. Even in English classes, I mean, I write papers and stuff like that. I tell my kids, they say, "Well, I thought you was our math ACT teacher." So no, I'm your test prep teacher. I teach the whole test. Math, English, reading, science. I do the whole thing, and there's a certain way that you were taught to do it. But if you're doing this and you're taking this test and it's a time test, you need to be able to do it as quick as you can. And I can look at it and say, "Oh, okay, I can straighten that out." I mean, this is the way you're supposed to do it, but there's a quicker way to it. And everything that I've learned, like I even teach dance classes, same thing. I teach dance class, teacher teach me in a week, and I'm wondering what's taking them so long. And then I started assisting him. The same thing he told me in a week, I could teach it in 10, 15 minutes. He looked at me like, "Wait a minute, you can't teach that in 10, 15 minutes. I said, "I can. I don't know what, it took you way too long." And they're on point with it. But I say I process everything like that. So I like to watch, study, and learn, and then I spit it back out to you. It's a lot quicker than the way I learned it. I internalize it and then put it right back to you.
I think that's a great gift to have. How would you describe basketball culture in Chicago in the 1990s versus today? What has changed and what has stayed the same?
Oh my God. Oh, like I said, you got back then the kids were, again, they was willing to work hard. They were, they played ball from sun up to sundown. No complaints. Now everybody's got an opinion, and then you have the biggest thing that I think has changed is the fact that back then they didn't have social media. These kids are self-promoting individuals and whatnot. You can't tell them that they're not the one. You can't tell their parents that they're not the one. Back then, I didn't have that many conversations with parents, like that was, they were telling me that, "No, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about," and they just accepted it for what it was. They say, "You know what, this guy's been doing it for a while, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let him do his thing," and I've coached some kids whose parents were professional athletes, and they say, "I watched you, I'm going to let you do you because I see you have an opportunity to do something that I may not have been able to do because I'm a little too close to the situation." These kids today, they got parents that have never played the game, don't understand the game, but they keep trying to correct the coaches. I'm looking at these coaches and I like shake my head. I say, "Boy, I got to do this at the right time." Right. The blessing of what I'm watching now, and I enjoy it. When I watch the girls play, the girls' game is way more intense than the boys. The girls work a lot harder than the boys, okay? I'm still around the boys, and I'm still around my team that I used to coach. I'm the athletic director at Farragut now. I watch them do what they're doing. They don't work hard, and these guys are 15, 16, 18 years old, and they're trying to tell me, "No, man, I don't feel like," okay, don't worry about it because I can only work with somebody that wants to work. When I come into the gym and I see Charles got a gym full of girls, he may have 20, 25, 30 girls in the gym. And they all there on time, they all ready to roll, and they hitting it and they're going hard. That encouraging me to continue to do what I'm doing, because if these guys don't want to listen, there are some people out there that will listen, and I'm willing to teach as long as you're willing to listen. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their time. I mean, if you're gonna tune me out, I don't like talking to walls. I'll deal with you. And I've had some of my best players that I know for a fact have listened to the advice that I've given them, and I smile all the time when I say, "Oh, you were listening." The biggest example I have that was with Kevin after his first contract. He was playing for Minnesota, and I was at his house, and I said, "You enjoy yourself?" "Yeah, yeah." And I said, "Let me explain something to you, because there was something that came up." And I said, "Your agent is, he's doing your contract. You don't know much about it. You came in the league at 19 years old. You don't know too much of anything. So he's going to lead you along a certain way. There's a few things I want you to do for me. never allow somebody to be your power of attorney. So don't let him sign off on anything. You need to sign off on everything that is in your name, because that's a lot of people that got in the business lost their money. Mm. You're a young guy and whatnot. People think they're going to be able to take advantage of you and tell you what to do. So you need to ask questions, a lot of questions. And don't be, like, because the person, your agent works for you and you don't work for your agent. So when his contract was finna end, that first contract, he's going to his second contract, and he and his agent had a problem. His agent kept bringing him stuff, saying, here, Kevin, sign this, here, Kevin, sign that. Then I popped in his mind. I was laughing. I'm sitting in his house looking at him, saying, well, what you talking about? He said, the guy kept bringing stuff and just said, just sign it, just sign it. And I said, wait a minute, man, what am I signing? And the guy said, oh, it's nothing. He said, well, it's nothing, I'm not going to sign it. He said to the guy, you do realize you work for me, right? I don't work for you. And I started smiling. I said, yep. Mm-hmm. He was listening. Yeah. I said, so you were listening? He said, I'm always listening. Like, my ears are wide open. I mean, if anybody got any knowledge to share, I'm willing to learn. These kids these days don't get that same thing. It's like, this man's a millionaire. He still listens to people that he knows have no hidden agenda. Like, I never asked him for anything. I don't need anything from him. I'm good. My life is good as it is, okay? And everybody keeps saying I'm crazy because, man, this guy's looking to take care of you. He'll be all right. He'll be all right. I said, what I do right now for the kids, I do it because I want to see those kids have a chance. And every time I see them leave the same neighborhoods that I came from, because I said I went to Farragut, grew up in North Lawndale, on the west side my whole life, and I'm watching and saying, they got a chance to get out of here. They got a chance to get out. And I'm telling them that I was you. They keep looking at me like, what do you mean you were me? I was you. My mama raised 9 kids, okay? I was like right in the middle. I was the only one that survived as far as being educated, getting a degree, having a good job. Everybody else just hustled and bust their butt to do and get what they had. And I said, you know what? You all can do it too. You don't think you can. It may not look good right now. You be looking at, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to. You can do it. I had to keep on encouraging you can do it. The reason I came back to Farragut after I retired, so they could see somebody who has been in their place and has made it out, and I could sort of show them the way. I feel like a Harriet Tubman sort of person. It's like I come back to Farragut and they look and they say, ain't that? And I'm sitting in the office like, how you doing? And I get out there and I talk to them. We talk about a lot of different things. We do a lot of things and whatnot. And they're shocked that I would even give them the time of day. And I told them, I'm there for all the kids. And they're like, oh my God, he's helping me with this, or he's helping me with that. I told them, as far as ACT test, it looks hard, but let me demystify you. I'm going to make it easy for you. And when I'm showing them, they're looking like, wow, this is crazy. I said, that's why I did what I did for so long. And again, they wouldn't pay me no extra money. I did what I did to make sure that they had an opportunity to get over. If somebody's going to offer you a scholarship, be in a position to receive that scholarship. Don't just be one dimensional. You're going to play basketball. I said, they're going to give me anyway because I play basketball. But you don't qualify. I got to wait for you to qualify and work on your game. And the coaches will always wonder, how do you get that kid? I said, because I'm a coach who's also a teacher with a math degree and an engineering degree. I said, if you can beat that, that's great. I said, but what I want you to understand is I care about these kids, and I don't need no extra anything. Just the kid wants to learn and wants to be successful. I'm going to try to push him as far as I can push him, And then when that kid moves on, I'm going to look for somebody else that is in a similar situation, see if I can push them. I just want to try to get them to be successful. Yeah, and that's the reason I think I'm here. That's why I stay here. Kevin asked me to come to LA. He keep asking me, what you waiting on? What you waiting on? And everybody said, what Kevin stay? He stay in Malibu. And you staying here? I know it's kind of stupid. He mad at me. But you got to be mad for a while. I said, when I'm ready, I'll let you know. I keep telling everybody, I got the number. I know where you at. Yeah. When it's time, it's time. But for right now, as long as I got some people that I can still help, he keep telling me, you can't save the world. You can't save the world. Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to get as many as I can. He just shake his head and says, man, crazy. Like, you've been doing it for 40 years, man. How much more time you think you're going to give them? I don't know. And sometimes I think about that. And I look at the next little kid coming along and say, that's my next project.
Right.
You know, that's my next project. And I said, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's great you do that. How do you feel knowing that you've coached and developed players that went on to NBA stardom and Hall of Fame recognition?
I feel good. Again, not everybody is going to reach um, that status, but I feel just good for the person, and I see them all the time. That is not locked up in jail, not in trouble, is raising his kids, got a good job, got a family, raising their kids, taking care of their kids because they see what I do. I got my kid. I'm divorced, but they know when they see my kid, they say, "Oh yeah, you know, he's taking care of him. There's no funny business going on. He's looking out for his kid." And I told him, "I'm gonna make sure my kid gets his degree. He's able to be successful in life and everything." I do that with everybody's kid. So when I do what I do with my star kids, I do the same thing for that kid who barely gets off the bench. You still play for me. You still my kid. I mean, even kids that just want to just play basketball, if I can help you, I'm going to help you with that. So when I see those kids, I just had a couple of them came back this past Sunday from California. They were traveling with their AAU team. And I saw one that graduated almost 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. We was at home run in. They called me and said, "Yeah, we in town. We coming through and whatnot. We want to holler at you, at home run in. I got somebody for you." So this kid I had not seen since he graduated. He graduated the year before Kevin Garnett. Okay, he graduated in 93. No, 94 he actually graduated. And, I was like, "What are you doing hanging out with him?" Because the young man was like at least 10 years younger than him, 10, 15 years younger. I'm like, "What are you doing?" They said they met in California. One kid was like, the guy said, "Well, where you from?" He said, "I'm from Chicago." He said, "I'm from Chicago." He said, "I play for Farragut." He said, "You play for Wolf?" He said, "What the heck? What do you mean? Where'd you play?" He said, "I play for Wolf too." They compare stories, but like 10, 15 year difference in their ages. He said, "Man," so they started comparing stories. The stories were similar. Mm-hmm. The one, I got him out of here. He went out to Utah, and it was a messed up situation. I got him out of there, sent him to California. He played for Fresno State, went and had a beautiful professional career, played in Australia. They call him the Jordan of Australia. He was a 6'6" guard. And everybody, "Oh my God." And every time they find out, "You play for Wolf? What the heck is going on?" Other one goes out to California, struggling. His mother died when he was a very young man. He's a freshman in high school. His mother died. And I basically took care of him. I took him in, okay? And him and my stepson, they was best friends. Got them both jobs together. They did everything together. And when it was time for him to go to college, his grandmother was doing the best she could. Don't worry about it. Sent him to California. He went out there, he came back. That's DT. And they both together now. And I'm like looking at him. And when I got the home run in, the older one, he looks. He said, "Hold on, man, I gotta go to the bathroom." Come out of the bathroom. I said, I couldn't let my coach see me crying. He said, "Man, you saved my life." Why is everybody keep saying I saved their life? And it's a lot of them that feel that way. They feel like if it wasn't for you doing all the stuff that you did, I don't understand how you did it. Everybody kept saying, "I thought you were rich because you always looked out for all of us." And I told them, "I'm rich." Look at me like, "You crazy, man." I said, "I look out for as many people as I can for as long as I can. And it was a good thing because the second one I went to California, I actually, when I told him it was time to go, I bought a plane ticket and sent him home because he had an offer to go to college. He couldn't get there. Grandma taking care of all his siblings and stuff. She's doing the best she can. I just, there you go. And he like, I went out there and he said, "I never turned back." And he's very successful now. And I just smiled. And I said, they're my kids. They're my kids. They doing their thing. So I told them I feel just, and then when they show me the pictures of their families and everything, I'm looking like, and I say, ain't no point in coming back here because there's nothing to come back here for because all of them were in the same situation. They were in a real jacked up situation at home for one reason or another. And I said, anything I can do to help, I'm going to do it. And their parents were like, "I can use all the help that you willing to give me." They didn't know just how much I was willing to help. to get them out there and to make sure that they were straight. So I'm loving it. I keep looking. Like I said, this past weekend, like I said, when I to see both of them and see they were successful and sharing their stories, I just kept smiling, showing me pictures of their family. Look at my family. Look at my family. I said, yeah. I asked how many kids he said, I got a whole basketball team. I got 5 daughters and a son. And one daughter's a model and the other daughter's a teacher. And I'm like, smiling. Must be nice. I said, I'm looking at, you got a beautiful wife, kids, and nothing. And he said, my kids didn't know how to struggle for nothing. I'm going to do the same thing for my kids that you did for me. Like the guy that's coaching the team now, Emmanuel, same thing. He shacked up situation. But I snatched him, took him in and whatnot. And he said the same thing. He said, man, saved my life because there's no way I could have possibly made it. He graduated from college, went and played professionally for 12 years. Now he's back, and he's like one of those old basketball movies. He say, time for you to retire, man, I got your back. You go ahead on, I got you. So then I'm like, whew, 40 years. So he came back and saved me. I felt like I said, one of the old basketball movies, like I could finally retire. Then when I retired, I'm sitting up there, they like, what you doing? Playing bingo. Watching ESPN. They're like, no, man, no, you can't do that, man. So they gave me the keys and said, run the gym. I'm going to name the gym after you, and I want you to come back and that's your gym, you run it. I said, I think I can do that. He said, make your own schedule, come in when you get ready, come in, leave when you get ready to leave. That sounds like I said, you say you earned that, man. That's your thing. So, and I also came back to make sure that Emmanuel was successful and that I had his back, because we had people when I left there, they were doing everything they could to, to sort of mess up the program. And now that I'm in charge, they look and they say, hey, he's back. When I came back, it was so funny. I felt so good. And they told me, go back and get your ID. I got my ID. I came in and they were like, what is he doing back? And I'm just smiling. How y'all doing? I'm back. I'm back. So then when I came back, and every time they try to do something, I say, you can't do that. And look, always getting in the way. That's why I'm here. I'm here to make sure that these kids are successful, because if you mess over, you mess over the kids that he's trying to mentor. If you're not going to help, get out of the way. I always say, either you're going to lead, you're going to follow, or just get out of the way. Let somebody that wants to do it, do it. You don't want to do anything. You just want to be messy. I don't have time to be dealing with messy adults. I'm here for the kids, not for the adults. And I let everybody know that. I'm here for the kids. I told the new principal, you do realize what I do for the kids. It's not even about the money, because he said, I can't pay you right now, so you got to pay me. So the crazy part about it, I've been the athletic director all year. Mm-hmm. This is mid-May. Yeah. I got paid that much money. Really? $0. And I run everything. I got the keys to the whole school. I run everything. And they looking at me like, he crazy. He crazy. I say, I'm all right. I would rather do this than have somebody else doing something just to mess over people, when I don't like people that do that. So I will come in and do that. And I come in, I told the principal, I come in like 3 days a week. I'm there every day, including Saturday. Just take care of everything. Anything they need, I'm there. Because I know more about Farragut than anybody. I know more about the school than anybody, because I've been at school for 51 years now. Mm-hmm. I was a freshman in 74. Yeah, 51 years I've been around that school. Wow. And I know everything. The assistant principal steady asking me, where does this go? Where does that go? I said, ups. That goes here, and this is connected to that. Yeah. And he was looking at me like, how does man know everything? Been around here long enough. Yeah. But it's fun to be able to do that. And I said, it's going to be a time where I finally feel comfortable that everybody's all right, and I can sit back and relax, and maybe I'll do a little traveling and do something like that. Yep.
But that's got to be a great feeling, having multiple people saying that you changed their lives. That's really great.
I had a lot of people. Yeah. I had a lot. It's insane. And they all got the same stories. I'm laughing, and I keep telling them, I didn't do that because I thought this person was going to be super successful and he's going to come save me one day and he's going to take care of me and he's going to buy me a house and a car. And they keep asking, and I say, I don't want to. What are you talking about? Like everybody kept asking me, they said, how can you have, because I mean, literally, I got text messages for days with Kevin saying, Wolf, you got to want something. No, not right now. I can't think of anything. He's like, this man crazy. It's like, all right, think about it then, and then get back to me. That he keeps saying that. He's been saying it for over a year now. And I told him, I said, it's like you do what you do out of love, not because you thought you were going to get paid for it, and just to see them being successful and being good people, that's my reward for a lot of stuff that I'm seeing and whatnot. Like when you girls are playing and whatnot, and I see you playing with your teams, and Charles keeps me updated as to what you guys are doing, how successful you are, and everything, and I just smile. When I see you play and I see your game getting better, better and better, I just smile and I just sit back and whatnot, and I say I feel good for the students that are actually doing that. I feel good for Charles. I feel good for everybody that's involved in the development of our youth, because I got in it for that. I grew up right down the street from two youth centers, and I was always in the youth center being that person that was working with the kids, working with the kids, working with the kids. And I guess I never stopped. And it wasn't about the money. It never was about the money, because I used to tell kids that if you get a job, if you get a job that you love, then money really doesn't matter. Because I told them I would do what I do, whether I got paid for it or not. Like I used to tutor, and like I was real good at tutoring. I used to tutor, and I used to coach basketball at the youth center. And like I said, I just did that. Now I'm doing it and getting paid for it. I just laugh. I look at my check and go, woo! They pay me. This is stupid. They don't know I do it for free. And all the years I worked, I'm like, you're just gonna give me this. I'm just gonna put it there. And they were like, but everybody wants something. I don't know what's wrong, but that's me.
That's great. The last question I have for you is, I want to play college basketball and I'm already working toward it, but from what you've seen me do, I want to know if you think I'm on the right track and what can I improve
You're definitely on the right track, because you're constantly in the gym working and you're training and trying to improve. Like I said, not a lot of people do that. They just come to basketball practice at the school or wherever when there's practice. It's not enough. You got to go over and beyond in order to reach that goal. Like it's like if you get an injury, you don't want to rehab to the point where you're back where you started. You want to be better than you were before you got injured. Same thing with your training sessions. You want to continue to, like when you're running your sprints, you're running everything. If the game is 32 minutes long, you don't want to just be able to run for 32 minutes. You got to go beyond that in order to make that 32 minutes seem like nothing. Okay, so the work that you guys put in and the type of work ethic that you put into it, when that matters. And you just got to continue to look for those challenges to challenge yourself. Like I said, I played a lot of different things. Like I was the captain of the chess team, and when I first played, I got beat like real fast. Got beat me like in 4 moves, and I was just like, the heck? So then I said, okay, I can't let this happen again. He beat me again. He beat me like in 6 moves. By the end of that week, I was beating him, because that's the way my mentality is. Yeah. Then I realized, I said, you know what? I tell people all the time, don't get in the habit of playing against somebody that you know you can beat, okay? Because it's not gonna help you. You're helping them, okay? Like when I play chess, the only way I would play against somebody that I know I could beat is if I was helping them. I know it wasn't helping me. I sought out competition. I sought out people that were, top notch. Right. And then when I beat them, I'm like, oh, now I need to look for somebody else now, because I got that one. So when you guys are playing, you look for the competition, because we used to do it all the time when we grew up back in the day. We would play at our local playground or whatever, and then we get some guys together, and we go to the next playground, and we got next. And then, we wanted, we wanted to just keep bringing our game up to that next level. We look for it wasn't always a tournament. It was just a matter of us getting good runs against good people. We didn't back down from anybody. Again, even with basketball, I was taught that. I didn't play elementary school basketball. I didn't play high school basketball. I didn't play college basketball. But again, like I said, I can watch the game and say, oh, wow, I, I can replicate that. I can do that. I can even teach someone else how to do that. And people were like, see, it's good. Like, because I wasn't on the team, but I was just good people that was on the team. I even had certain things about me because I was a point guard. I had certain things about me. I had that vision. And I was like, boom, boom, boom. And they like, what the heck? But again, my biggest thing was I wasn't a scorer like that, but I play great defense, take off. I will sacrifice my body. People that are not willing to sacrifice are never going to make it to the next level. People that are not willing to work to the point of exhaustion, you can forget about it because somebody else is doing it. And somebody, like you think that, you got time. I'm going to chill out and relax. Okay. And like I said, I heard a lot of people say, while you chilling, somebody else is out there working. And I always had that in my head. I'm not going to let you outwork me. And I did that everything that I did. Like even with math, people would say, "Oh, they're gonna be better than you because they're white." I said, "It's not like that teacher going home with them. we got the same book, we're getting the same lessons. I'm not gonna believe because they're white, they're gonna be better than me." I sit up there and I study the books and do what I do. When I get in that room, they're looking at me like he must be cheating. And I'm laughing like I got the highest grades, so how am I cheating? And they're like, that's not possible. I mean, I used to go to UIC, and my freshman year, they asked me what my major was. And I told them I was an electrical engineering major. Mm. They looked at me and said, stop playing. And the people around the room were like, well, I'm a communications major. I'm a PE major. That's all. I'm an electrical engineering major. They kept saying, stop. So I opened up my book bag. My books was this big. I was a freshman. They were like, what? Why are you sitting up there playing cards? That's what we do in the hood. But again, I'm in the hood, but again, I'm way smarter than I look. Yeah. And they asked me, how many black people in your class? I don't know, because I'm colorblind. Not actually colorblind, but I don't pay attention to stuff like that. So I'm in the class and I'm working, and I'm realizing the teacher keeps walking around the room and standing behind me. Everybody think I'm cheating. He can't be that smart. Right. And I'm like doing this, and I thought about what they said. And I looked around the room. I was the only black person in the room. I was like, oh, I'm stupid. I'm like, oh, that's why they say that. And then I'm looking at this teacher standing behind me. He's trying to catch me cheating. I'm like, are they serious? So, I mean, I'm sort of kind of like, I got used to people just looking at you and saying, no, you can't, you can't, you can't. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. I mean, if they can, I can. Okay. And I look at these people and you hear their stories. A lot of them gonna have similar stories. And again, they just wanted it more. They just wanted more. And no matter how many sessions it took for them to get better, like they ask questions, okay? Like some of my All-Americans, Michael Wright, I never got any rest. He lived a block from me. And I would work him out in the gym, and then we'd get on me and say, well, if I want to go to the weight room. All right, Michael, take him to the weight room. Then we go back. I want to go back out in the gym. Can you teach me some guard moves? He's a big man. Right. He played for Arizona. He started for Arizona for 3 years. Played with Gilbert Arenas, Richie Jefferson, all of them. He was their big man. And I'm looking at him like, we just had a 2-hour workout. He wanted more. So I'm like, okay, all right, now I'm going to teach you, like I told you, a lot of post stuff. Now I'm going to teach you some guard stuff. He was hungry. He was like eating it up, eating it up, eating it up. And when he came out, oh my God, he was nice and big, like about 6'8". He can handle the ball, he can shoot it, he banged it. They were looking at him, and Jim Boeheim from Syracuse said, you the top power forward in the country. I ain't never seen a power forward as good as you. He wanted to go to Syracuse. Everybody wanted to go somewhere. And I told him, I said, you can have a lot of people that want to get you, but you got to take care of your academics, okay? ACT score, you got to pass that. So we worked at it until he finally got over. Because you can take the test till you pass it. So his worst subject was English. So I dropped the math books. I'm a math teacher. Dropped the math books. We're going to work on English. He looked at me like, what you talking about? Get that score up, you'll be able to accept scholarships. He was getting like a 16 in English. I got up to like a 22. And I asked the counselor, I said, you got a score? She said, yeah. I said, read his English score. She said, he didn't do all that well on the test. I said, I didn't ask you that. I asked you to read his English score. So he got 22. I said, okay. And then he asked me, did I pass the test? I would tease him like she did. You didn't do well on the test. He said, man, what did I do on English? You got 22. So do you want to call up Coach Olson or do you want me to call him up? He was like, that means I passed. Yeah, that means you can go anywhere you want to go. See, because you understood the assignment. The assignment wasn't just to play basketball and be the best basketball player you could be. He took care of his mind, he took care of his body, and took care of his game. And he was very humble. A lot of these kids are not that, and that's where you gotta cover every one of those steps. Because when you get too cocky, that's a turn off. You know, you humble, but you have to understand that I know what I can do. I'm not gonna let you shoot me down and tell me what I can't do. I'm not gonna let you say, well, that person deserves it, you don't. That person deserves to eat why I can't eat. Hey, I'm confused. Like, what are you willing to do to get this? Well, if I got to get a job or do whatever, I decide to get a job, do that. But I need to get that. You know, and again, when people see that you're willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes, they're gonna be like, you know what? Who are we to deprive them? All I ever ask for in life is an opportunity. You give me an opportunity, I think I can get that. And I used to tell them, James Brown said, you ain't got to give me nothing, just open up the door and I get it myself. And I believe in that. I grew up on that. It was like, just give me a chance. You don't think I can get there. Give me a chance. I'll show you. I don't want that 40 acres and mule. I want the whole farm. And 40 acres and mule, that's that. No, I might want all that. If I'm willing to work, can I get all that? You're going to give it to me, I'm going to take it, okay? Same thing goes when it comes to getting into colleges, playing on teams, whatever, whatnot. Just give me a chance. I'm going to show you what I can do. And when that time comes for you to get that exposure, you want to make the best of that, as opposed to you just think, well, I've been playing ball since I was, don't nobody care. You ain't the only person in here that's been playing ball as a young person and whatnot, what makes you stick out? You got to give them something that makes you stick out. Like our guys, like would take